Future Vision, wearable technology for people with sight loss, presented by Matt Harrison of My Sight Knots on the 23rd of June 2022. Future Vision. Future Vision is a series of technology events aimed at people living with sight loss. Future Vision is a collaborative project between 6 local independent sight societies. Sight Advice South Lakes in Cumbria, My Sight Knots in Nottingham, Sight Airedale in the Airedale area of North and West Yorkshire, Support for Sight in Mid and West Essex, Sutton Vision in the London Borough of Sutton, and Outlookers in Huddersfield, West Yorkshire.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Tim from Sight Advice South Lakes, and this is the Rainbow Collaboration, which is a group of 6 sight loss organisations, and we come together twice a month to do a Living Well, which is more about quality of life, and Future Vision, which is about technology. And today is a technology one, and we are delighted to say we have one of our members, Matt from My Sight, who will introduce himself properly with his full title, but he's a manager now. And we're going to talk about, it's going to be about headsets, something really pragmatic and practical, which people may want to, at the end of this, purchase some stuff. You can't purchase it off us. We're just telling you which is some of the best kit or some of the kit that Matt actually uses, which may be useful. So it's one of those sessions. So over to you, Matt.
Thank you very much indeed. Bear with me a second while I just share my screen. As I say, don't worry about not being able to see what's on the screen. It's there as much as a kind of an aid memoir for me as it is for anything else. If you do want the slides to be available afterwards, I can certainly do that and send them on to you. So it's good to be back. I've been kind of missing in action with the Rainbow Group for quite a bit. I've been so ridiculously busy, but it's nice to actually spend some time meeting with like-minded colleagues and our service users as well. And yeah, so I'm the services supervisor over at My Sight. So a recent promotion from my sight loss advisor days, but I'm still doing some tech advice on the side as well. So I'm still very much involved in the tech kind of side of delivery. And today's presentation is all about wearable devices. And I'm focusing in particular on the headsets and the smart glasses and things like that. More on that in a minute. But obviously other wearables are available that I'm not covering. I was looking online just this week, actually, just pepping up my presentation, and I saw a device that you can wear around your body. The only way I can describe it is it's kind of like the same size as a smoke alarm, and then you have straps that you put on your arms and they vibrate to kind of inform you about objects that you're approaching. So it's kind of like it uses LiDAR, so kind of light refraction stuff, so it light detection, so it bounces back off an object and then it works out how far away it is. I'm not covering stuff like that today, but just so you know, other wearables are available. In my head, wearables also includes basic things like your smartwatches and stuff like that. But today, I'm just going to be looking at the headsets to augment vision, but also other sides, the cameras that help people who have no vision as well. So please don't dash off if you don't have any sight. There is still something for you within this presentation. As has already been said, really, by Tim, this is not, we don't sell this kit. For me today, it's just an awareness raising session about the kinds of things that are out there and what they can do. I'm going to talk in very general terms. If we do have time, we can go into some specifics, but the caveat is I don't know everything about this stuff. And there are so many different devices on the market that sometimes it's quite easy to get them mixed up. So you need to do your research carefully, but hopefully this will help start that process if you're interested. So it's just an awareness raising session more than anything. As I say, I work for My Sight Knots, so I'm not a salesman. It's not a sales pitch on behalf of any one of those companies. I have no links to them. I think it's important that we say that. But I do use some of this kit, so I can talk about my own personal experience. But obviously that will be then limited to a particular headset or camera as opposed to the whole range. Okay, so what are wearables? Well, basically in this case for today, we're talking about headsets and visors and cameras and things like that you can pop on, or in some cases hold in your hand, and they will try and either augment what existing site you have, or they will try and describe it to you if you have very limited sites or no site at all. So you can kind of zoom in on your surroundings and just get a bit more detail. And they do a really, really good job at that, to be honest. They certainly do for me. I have Stargarts, by the way. I should probably throw that in so you know what I'm dealing with. So I have central vision loss, just have my peripheral vision. And it's a degenerative condition. It's still, my sight is still decreasing, but I'm registered severe sight impaired. So hopefully that gives you a snapshot as to the day-to-day difficulties that I also face and why these pieces of equipment are actually quite enabling. Some of these devices use artificial intelligence, and by which I mean they use sort of computerized programs in the background that then try and describe the world around you. So where the computer will try and interpret what they see. For those of you familiar with apps, artificial intelligence, we're thinking about the kind of things that Seeing AI does for Apple users, or Seeing AI, or say Sullivan Plus if you're an Android user. So that kind of thing then comes into being with these headsets and glasses as well. So they're starting to develop in their own use and have more functionality than they've ever had before. Okay, I'm going to break things down into 3 different groups. I'm going to talk about the visors or the headsets, which are the kind of bulkier end of the scale, the smart glasses, which are the kind of the way things seem to be heading a little bit at the moment, and then also the body worn cameras as well. And if you can see on this slide here, we have 3 examples. So the first example is the Macular Viewpoint headset. The second one is the New Eyes smart glasses, and the third one is the Orcam My Eye Pro, which fits on the side of your glasses. So they are illustrated on the slide for those that need it. If you ever go on some of the suppliers' videos for these, there's lots of very good auditory description about kind of what they feel like and how you orientate yourselves and find the buttons. So don't panic with that. Some of these videos, I'm not showing the videos today, but if you want to find those out for yourselves afterwards, they are very, very informative. Okay, so if we were to start with the headsets or the visors, the way I'll describe it is they're a virtual reality headset. So for those of you that know about your video games or have used anything like this before, they're the big headsets with the strap that goes around nowhere in the back of your head and over the top of your head, and then they strap on in front of your eyes, and they've got a kind of foam insert around your eyes to sort of take the pressure off and make them comfortable to wear. They're fairly lightweight. They're just made of kind of plastic, and they tend to have a smartphone slotted into the front of them. So in effect, what you are doing is you're using the smartphone's camera and then the high definition screen that is obviously very close to your eyes, and then bespoke software on these machines to enable you to zoom in and zoom out and do all the usual things like change your color contrast and stuff like that. So they kind of use 2 different bits of tech. There's the actual casing, and then they cobble it together with a smartphone. What tends to happen is they tend to use bespoke software. So when you turn the device on, it's not your typical smartphone. And in most cases, you don't have access to the smartphone features. It's been taken over by the software. So when you turn your smartphone on inside the headset, it will just run the software that enables you to zoom in, zoom out, change the color contrast and all those kinds of things. So it stops being a smartphone at the same time. So I think one thing to bear in mind is if you're buying something like this, you're not buying a smartphone that you can then go and phone somebody on or do your Tesco shop on. You're buying technology that happens to be a smartphone that you're using to enhance any vision that you have remaining. The headsets tend to have a touch panel on the side and a couple of physical buttons. So the one I've got has like a big sort of rectangular area on the side of which sort of sits on the side of my head, and I can do swipes and taps on there to control it. And it also has 2 different buttons. It has one that's kind of recessed and one that sticks out, and they're 2 buttons that do the features. So you can very quickly learn the buttons without having to be able to see them. But some of them also use voice recognition this day and age as well. So a lot of the tech we're talking about now is changing, a lot more voice commands thanks to the smart speaker revolution. And I think it's amazing that you can now use voice control with a lot of these devices. Okay, so in terms of a typical headset, you can zoom in and out on things. They tend to vary model by model in terms of how much zoom you get. The one I've got zooms to 22 times magnification, which is quite fantastic. Although at 22 times magnification, the slightest movement of your head is obviously exaggerated 22 times by the camera, and it can get a little bit blurry. So, but they're pretty good. I think if you sat down watching TV, or maybe at the cricket or something like that, and you pop this on, you're going to get a lot out of it in terms of being able to see close up. But the zoom level does vary from device to device. So again, if that's an issue for you or a really kind of key selling point, make sure you research that first. That you can change the color contrasts. On mine, there's 10 different color mode options, and that ranges from one which is high contrast, which is the same colors as natural colors, but everything's kind of boosted. And then there are the usual options like black on white, white on black, yellow on blue, blue on yellow, and then some more weird and wonderful exotic kind of color combinations. And then there's also something called edge mode, which if you've ever used one of these, you might have seen. And what that does is I think it picks up on the light that naturally sits on the edge of objects, and then it converts that. The only way I can describe it is it's like a sketch. So for me, when I go into edge mode, everything is gray, and then I have a black line, a black outline. So if I was to look at my monitor, as I am doing now, sat at my computer desk, I would see the outline of the monitor. I would see the little webcam outlined on top, and even the lens and the little light, the LED light that shows that we're on. All those things are very, very obvious. It's a strange way to look at the world, but actually it gives you an incredible amount of detail, or it certainly does for me. So the edge mode is something that takes some getting used to, but it's interesting. And then you tend to have, sometimes some of them have a text recognition mode as well, which just tries to outline text clearer to make it easy to read. And then some have what we call OCR, which is optical character recognition. Don't worry about the jargon. All that means is it can scan text and read it back to you. So again, like some of the apps you get on your phones will do that, or the devices that you might have sat on your desk. So in theory, you can put this on, hold a document in front of you, go into OCR mode, it will take a photograph and it will strip the text out and read it back to you. And on mine, it then displays it on the headset in front of me and highlights each word as it's talking. And again, you've got all the different contrast options within that. So it's quite a versatile device, really. A few different examples. This is not an exhaustive list. So these are not the only ones available, but they're the ones that are kind of known to me. There's one called Ace Sight. That's ACESIGHT. That's all one word. Ace Sight, which is a kind of the low price point of these devices. So that's round about 1,890 is the cheapest I found it. So they're not cheap, but that's the kind of cheaper end. There's Iris Vision. There's Sight Plus, which is made by Give Vision, and there's Viewpoint, the Mercury Viewpoint as well, which is the one that I own. So there are others available. So there's a whole host of these visors out there. We'll come on to uses later, because I think that we can combine the uses into a general conversation that isn't just specifically about headsets. It might be about headsets and smart glasses and cameras to a lesser extent as well. But kind of that's my overview of the headset side of things. Just to say, I think they're quite comfortable to wear. I wouldn't wear it for a long period of time. And I'll put a slide in about this later on, but the caveat with all this is they're not intended to be used as a mobility aid. I will reinforce this later on, but I think it's good to get that in your head early on. So we don't expect you to walk down the street wearing these. Some people do, but we can't advocate that. So we can't endorse that. So they're not intended to be used whilst moving, but they can be used when you get somewhere, and then you get more enjoyments of where you are and sort of seeing your surroundings, but you shouldn't use it as a mobility aid. Okay, move on to the smart glasses, and the one in the picture here is the Oxite glasses. And to describe those to you, they are more like a traditional pair of wraparound sunglasses. Obviously they're heavier than that because they have a computer inside them. And they have things like at the back of the ear, where the glasses go over the back of the ears, they have your little speaker that sits there so it can talk to you. And quite often these things have a wire coming off them that goes to some kind of pack that you might need to wear on your belt or stick in your pocket. Some of them wireless, but not all of them that I believe. So like I say, they tend to look more like a traditional pair of sunglasses. And what happens is that the lenses that you would normally have in your sunglasses, they're there, but they're actually high definition screens. So they can project onto the screens and push things through to the screens. So again, it's a lot of the benefit of these, and the reason why they work for people like you and I who have limited sight is that you've got a very high definition screen that's very bright and it's very close to your eye. And then for me, I use eccentric viewing, so I look to the side to be able to see what's directly in front of me. You can move your eye only a very, very small degree to eccentrically view. And I think that's why it works. That's my own personal take on things. And I've been doing research before I started at my site. I was doing research over at the Beacon Centre in Wolverhampton, and we were looking at the use of virtual reality headsets. And again, I think it comes down to the same thing. The reason why I was able to use those is because it was very high definition screens, very close to my eye, and then you can get it into a part of your eye that still actually works. So yeah, so they've got these screens which are really good. Again, they do magnification and they'll do color contrast and things like that. Some of the smart glasses now start to introduce the artificial intelligence features, which are the things we talked about on the apps like Seeing AI and Sullivan Plus. So in addition to zooming in and zooming out and changing the color of what you're looking at, which in itself is a massive benefit, they will start to try and interpret the world around you according to their own software. So they might be able to do a scene preview. So you could look at something and you would do a certain tap on the side of the glasses, or potentially a voice command. And at that stage, it will say, again, what I'm looking at now, it might say, maybe computer desk, lamp, keyboard, that kind of thing. So whatever you're looking at, it will try and describe it to you. So that's quite a nice addition. Some of the smart glasses as well, there's one called the New Eye, and it's N-U-E-Y-E. So it's capital N, lowercase u, capital E-Y-E, New Eye. That one, you can also link it to things like your TV. So you can stream your TV onto it. Okay, so with the headsets, I would typically sit down on the sofa, get the magnification level right so I can see the whole screen, and I'll sit back in my chair and hopefully watch the TV with my headset on. With the smart glasses, you would potentially stream it directly onto the glasses. So that means you probably got more movement, and if you move your head around, obviously the lenses are still in front of your eyes, so you're still going to be able to watch that. Whereas if I move my head around with the headset, I'm going to start seeing things around the TV. So there's a bit of a change there. And some of these, like the New Eye, they're getting to a stage now where they've got a lot more functionality. So you can do things like internet browsing and email and stuff like that on them. If we've got time, I can go into the specifics of the New Eye, because I've been looking at that one in quite a bit of detail. But yeah, so there's a bit more to smart glasses in some cases than there are the headsets. That is reflected in the price. As I say, I'm not a salesman. I'll tell it as it is, and these things aren't cheap. But for some people, it's such a life-changing experience. Then you know, they're worth looking into. If you go on the websites for the suppliers, you'll tend to find as well that there's lots of videos, very emotional videos of people kind of allegedly seeing for the first time. I'm not saying they're not doing that, but obviously there's a lot of emotive videos on there where people put the glasses on and they get quite tearful. I have seen that in person, putting the glasses on people and the headsets on people. It has made a massive difference. Obviously, they'd love to sell them from that viewpoint. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but just, you know, you will see a lot of that when you go online, but you can get some very practical videos out there. And again, I'll mention this at the end, but if you want to do your research, your local sight loss charity will be a starting point. A lot of the suppliers obviously will be able to talk you through the different options, and the suppliers will come out, and a lot of suppliers sell more than one piece of kit. So they'll bring it all out for you to test to see, find the best one. So don't feel you're ever going to kind of commit to one before you start the process. You know, get them to test lots of different ones with you. In terms of your smart glasses, big ones, the sort of big names out there, there's eSight, there's Oxsight, as in Oxford, O-X-S-I-G-H-T. There's the New Eyes that I've talked about. And the prices of these there's a I think it's Oxite do a range that about £1,490 or something around about there, right about the £1,500 mark, which for this kind of kit is actually quite unbelievable. I think that one probably has quite limited functionality compared to say the New Eyes, because that kind of thing retails at, I think it's over £6,000. So you've got, again, a massive range here in terms of what you get for your money. And I'm guessing they will come down in price over time, as they become more, they bring out new models that can do more things. Some of these will now, probably come down in price. Like the latest New Eyes one, which is the one that's over £6,000, it's called the New Eyes Pro 3. But if you were to Google that one, and you just Google New Eyes, it'll already tell you that one's now kind of discontinued because they've superseded it. So it's moving fast, the technology. Okay. And finally, on my list of 3 things, we've got the cameras. So these would be more of interest potentially to people who have either no sight at all or so little sight that what they have remaining can't be augmented through the headset and the smart glasses. Okay. It feels really weird talking about Orcam. I don't know if it's just me, but it seems like Orcam's been around forever, and it hasn't. And Orcam's a company, great, and the kit they provide is very, very enabling. But it just seems like almost like I felt a bit of a fraud putting this in, because it almost seems like I'm preaching to the converted, and we all know about Orcam. Others are available as well as Orcam, obviously. But yeah, the smart cameras are great. They're very discreet. So there's one that sits on the side, or a couple that sit on the side of your glasses frame. So if you already wear glasses, great. You get supplied with a little kind of magnetic adhesive strip that's magnetic that sits on one of the arms of your glasses. And you would put it on the same arm as you are handed. So if you're right-handed, you put it on the right arm of your glasses. If you're left-handed, you put it on the left arm of your glasses. And basically, they just sit on the frame. If you don't wear glasses, it comes with a kind of plastic dummy frames that you can just use. Or you could do what I did a few years ago, and I went down to Specsavers and told them that I wanted to buy some frames, because I wanted some nice frames, but without any lenses in, but with clear lenses in. It was an interesting conversation. The first person I saw wouldn't sell me them because he said it would be dangerous because I was blind, and I said no, it's just a dummy pair of glasses. Whereas the second advisor said, yeah, I totally get what you're doing, and sold me a pair of frames. So it can be a little bit hit and miss in terms of educating people about what these things are and what they do. But yeah, so in terms of size of the Orcam devices, I always try and liken dimensions to food. I think it's just me being a bit of a pig. So I like my food, and I used to say that the Orcam was similar size to that kind of sweet you got in the Quality Street, the one that's kind of like the fudge, the toffee stick thing. They're a bit bigger than that, but they're not far off that kind of size. So they fit on the side of your glasses, down the length of your glasses. So if you think about the distance from the front of your glasses, where the glasses turn the corner, if you like, onto the lenses, and they will go down to the actual device will then go down to where your ear is. So they tend to have a little speaker on the back end of them, so it's close to your ear, and they just whisper in your ear. And there's also a handheld version of the Orcam in particular, which is called the MyRead or MyReader, and that's a bit more of a point and press. So you can wear it on a lanyard around your neck so you don't lose it. You can with the glasses one as well, but you just hold it in your hands. And if you do have some remaining sight, you can just point it in a general direction of text, press a button, and it'll just read back what it sees. So their main feature is definitely the OCR, the optical character recognition. So the reading of formatted text, that's definitely what they're there for more than anything else. They do other things as well. So for example, you can recognize colors with them and things like that. So you can point them at colors and go into color mode, and it'll tell you what color something is. Obviously that depends on lighting, as it does with all these things. You can point it at a person, and you can actually teach it a person's name. So if I worked in an office with Tim, I could basically get a photo of Tim. I could stand in front of Tim, you tap it to take a photo of Tim, and then you just say Tim into the Orcam afterwards. And then every time it sees Tim, or every time you look up, it'll say Tim. or every time Tim walks into the room, it might say Tim. So there's things like that that are quite nice little features. It'll do banknote recognition. What else will it do? It will the colors and some scene preview, and it also will learn some gestures as well. So you control the Orcam again just by swiping and tapping on the side. I should have said that with smart glasses, some of them you tap on the side. You can also get little wireless controls for some of those as well. So whatever suits you best. With Orcam, the newer Orcams, they don't have the wired box that they used to have. You can swipe along the length of the device to do things, and you can swipe up and down to change your features and then tap. So you need to learn about 3 or 4 different gestures to use these, but they're very, very simple gestures. There's nothing like twisty turny with the things. It's either a horizontal swipe or a vertical swipe, or it's a tap or a double tap and things like that. And yeah, they'll do things like scene preview, recognizing people, banknotes, but mainly text. And again, they've gone down the voice activation route these days as well. So gone are the days, well, they're still there. If you want to tap and swipe, you can, but if you don't want to do that, then you can just give basic commands. So you say, I think you say Orcam or Hey Orcam, which again is a kind of standard convention in this day and age, no different to saying Hey Siri or Hey Google, and that kind of thing. So basically you can say Hey Orcam, read text or something like that. But what you can also do with the Orcam is you can actually specify what you want it to read. So you can say things like read headlines, and it'll just go for text, I'm guessing, of a certain size. You say read dates, and it'll just find dates within the thing. Read amounts, and it'll read numbers to you. So there's different ways of using Orcam now, which is quite a fantastic development, really. Okay, so here's my safety kind of guide to all this. And I just want to reiterate this because it's really important. When you get these devices, you'll be told, and correctly so, that it isn't a mobility aid. They're not there to replace canes and dogs and walking sticks and all those things. They're not there to replace that. They're there to augment your sight or to interpret the world around you if you don't have any sight. They should not be used for navigation purposes, and you should not be walking around the street wearing them. Bear in mind that if you zoom into a comfortable level, for me with my 22 times magnification headset, the neighbor's house, which is probably 400 or 500 yards away, will appear like it's 2 feet away. So objects will be skewed in terms of where they are in relation to where they actually are, because you've either zoomed in, or in the case of mine, I can zoom out. I can go further out than natural vision, which obviously I don't get much benefit from, but it's there as an option. So you shouldn't really use them to walk around. Like I say, I think they're great when you get somewhere. So I live right next to a country park that has a nice big hill on it, and I can see over the Vale of Beaver and out towards kind of the east coast. And then I can go the other way and look into sort of Nottingham city centre towards that. And there are things that I've never seen that are listed on the viewing point in front of me. I've got one kind of metal plaques that says if I look this way, I can see Lincoln Cathedral, apparently, even though I'm, I don't know, about 40 odd miles away from Lincoln. Never seen it, but if I took my headset up and went to the viewing point, then I could pop that on, holding onto the railing, and look ahead for Lincoln Cathedral. So there's things like that where you can use them when you're out and about, but you don't use them to move while you're out there. I think it's really important to get that message across. You will see on some of the American videos that people walking down the street wearing them. I can't endorse that, but each to their own. Okay, so I want you to move on to uses, because I think this is what we're going to do with these things. Obviously, we're just talking about kind of giving you back some of your sight that you've lost potentially, or augmenting what you still have. So the obvious thing is reading, and they're great for that. So it might be a case of using it and then being able to hold your paperback book again. I don't do it for reading because my sight is such that I tend to magnify to about 8 or 9 times these days, probably about 8 times. So if I make a word font size 72, which is what I'd be doing in theory, then a good 60 or 72 point font, I can't see the whole word on the screen because it's too big for me, and I can't process it quickly enough. But you can use it for reading. I have used it for reading. So I've used it, for example, when my screen reader has crashed and then I can't read what's on my screen. I put the headset on and either zoomed in, or in the case of mine, I've used the OCR feature and got it to take a picture and tell me what the dialog box says on the screen. So it's things like that that are really, really good. I remember years ago when my screen reader crashed, I was actually kneeling on top of my desk with a magnifying glass, squinting at the screen with my phone tucked underneath my ear and my shoulder, trying to get the tech support at the other end to tell me what was going on. And it was a nightmare, whereas the headset would have made that much easier had I had it at the time. So reading is a big one, either for you to physically read or potentially to have things read back to you if the headset, smart glasses or camera has the OCR capabilities, which obviously the camera would have. I'll put here static orientation. And what I mean by that is what I was talking about in the country park, the idea of going somewhere and being able to see your surroundings. Holidays, the idea of going on holiday and going somewhere totally new and wanting to experience as much of that as you can. I've got a couple of friends who've just been on cruises recently. I just think the idea of taking this on a cruise would be amazing, because then you are moving, but you'd just be static. So you'd be kind of leaning on the railing at the boat through the Norwegian fjords or wherever, and taking some of that information back in, that visual information that otherwise you wouldn't get from a holiday. So I really get it for that kind of thing. And I think that's quite a nice thing to have. Watching TV is a big one. So I would normally sit on the TV, not sit on the TV. I probably need to pretty much sit on the TV to see it, but I tend to sit on the sofa right next to the TV, and I have to be about 6 inches away from the screen to get anything out of it. And then the rest of the family who sit on the other sofa complain because all they can see is the back of my head. So it could be a way of then going back to sitting on the sofa with the rest of the family if they'll let me back in, and being able to zoom in on the TV screen from a distance. And I think that in that kind of environment, watching something for half an hour or an hour will be pretty good. I've not used it at the cinema yet, but obviously that's a really big option as well. You could do that and still have the audio description headphones at the cinema as well, and combine two bits of technology and get a whole immersive experience. I think the cinema is interesting. I'll come on to that in a minute in terms of public perception of this kit, because I think that's quite an important point. Arts and craft activities, absolutely tailor-made for these things, because all of a sudden you're hands-free. So if you've got the headset on or the smart glasses, you're hands-free. So you can use both your hands for your cross stitch or your word search or whatever it is you might want to do. During lockdown, I started doing a bit more drawing. I used to draw when I was younger, and I've not drawn since obviously losing my sight. And so, you could put the headset on and do your drawing again, and you can use both your hands in the way that you normally would, naturally would. You just increased your magnification and contrast options and things like that using the headset. So there's loads of stuff for arts and crafts. Something that's not on the list, I was hearing the other day from one of the suppliers that they've got a lady who uses it for gardening. So again, she wouldn't walk around the garden in it necessarily, but when she's like kind of kneeling down on the cushion and she's doing the weeding, she can put the headset on and still do the gardening. And I love that kind of thing, that you kind of, the things you enjoy doing, which isn't gardening for me, but the things that you enjoy doing, you don't lose that because you can still do it in this way. And I put tinkering here. How wide is that as a concept? But for me, sometimes I need to attach them to the back of my computer. I need two hands. You could just do that and put the headset on. I had a client elsewhere from another job I do who wanted to still do motor vehicle maintenance, and the headset was just ideal for him in terms of he could put the headset on, put his head under the bonnet of the car and still tinker and zoom in and zoom out. And if he got the right one, it would be voice activated, so he wouldn't even be putting oily hands all over the device as well. So lots of benefits to tinkering with this kind of kit. I put supervision and observation. This was an interesting one. I showed my headset to a gentleman a few weeks ago who came into the office, and he works at a youth club, and one of his roles is to just watch the kids while they're out playing football and just make sure they're all safe. And he's really struggling with this. Whereas we put the headset on, and he actually borrowed it for the day and took it down to the club. And I think got a lot of benefit out of it, still being able to see what the kids are up to. And do his normal supervisory role, without having to worry about, am I missing something because I can't actually see that anymore? I can't get that level of detail. So I think there's things like that that suddenly, increase what you do and enable you to carry on in your current work. And I put here attending events like theatre and sport. I mentioned cricket earlier on. We're currently in negotiation with Trent Bridge about using the headsets at the cricket. They're quite keen on us doing this, and we just need to take it forward. We're also looking at working with all the other sporting clubs in Nottinghamshire, and also theatres and venues. So we've got a venue on board as well, who are going to be helping us in terms of gigs, where there's a safe space where you can sit and watch a gig, but then you can put the headset on and get more out of going to that gig again. So we've just started on that route as an organisation, as a charity, which really trying to push it across the county. It's been quite difficult to engage with those people, actually, which has really surprised me, but we're just making inroads now. So I think watch this space. It might be something to talk about in the future. But our idea potentially is to have a set either at my site that we can then loan out free of charge to our service users, who can then take it away for the evening and go to the theatre or go to the sporting event and watch it, and then bring it back the next day. We charge it up and it goes back out again. And longer term, we're aiming for the venues maybe to fundraise and get their own headsets to keep permanently. Cricket always seems to be a really accessible sport. I think, with all the kind of the great audio description you get at cricket matches anyway, the cricket always seems to be really, really keen on this kind of thing. So I'm really keen that we push the Trent Bridge thing there. But as I say, news as and when, really. Okay, so pros and cons. I'll pretty much finish with this, I think. So the pros are obviously that you might be able to regain some sight, obviously not medically, but you can enhance what you still have, and do things that otherwise you might find quite difficult. Inclusion, by that I mean the idea of going back and sitting on the same sofa as everybody else to watch the TV, or maybe playing a board game again, stopping my kids cheating at Monopoly when they tell me I've rolled a 6 when I haven't, and I end up owing them 400 quid for landing on Mayfair, that kind of thing. Part of family life again. The battery life on these things isn't too bad. It tends to be a few hours, but quite often nowadays, and certainly with my headset, you can plug in one of those external power packs that you can buy on Amazon for a few quid, which will double your battery life. So if not triple it or whatever. So yeah, they don't have to be plugged in to be used, and you can get extra battery packs for them. The cameras, I think, are quite discreet, which I think is really nice. I like the idea of like my Orcam. When I use my Orcam, it was for things like going buying greetings cards and not having to stop somebody else and ask them what the greetings card message was, and getting more of an idea of it for myself. I remember asking somebody in John Lewis what the greetings card said, and told her that I was visually impaired. And after she'd read the message to me, she walked away with a friend, and I overheard her say, "Oh, bless him! I bet he just can't read really, and he's too embarrassed to tell me," which infuriated me. But the Orcam again, and some sort of kit can help you get over that. You might find some of the bigger models a little bulky, and you won't want them on your head for very long. That's personal preference. Just try them out as much as you can before you even think about buying them. And I would say in terms of the cameras that quite often need hand-eye coordination. So with the Orcam, for example, you have to point at something, and it will then follow your finger and read what's in front of your finger. Obviously, if you have no sight, you might not have that hand-eye coordination. And with the handheld Orcams, like my reader, they have a laser sight on them that helps you kind of frame the bit that you want to scan and have read aloud. Again, there's a certain amount of hand-eye coordination needed for that, or a lot of learning to know roughly where you're pointing in relation to written material. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think it is difficult if you don't have any sight. So that's kind of a bit of a sort of a negative side of things. And then I wanted to talk about the lack of public awareness of these things. So it might be quite strange if you're sat at the cricket with your headset on and people might start asking you questions. So I think be prepared for that as a conversation. Some venues might say you can't bring that in here, it's recording equipment, and the answer is it isn't recording equipment, and there's maybe awareness that we as sight loss charities can do to kind of make people aware of what they're doing, and that's certainly what we're doing at My Sight Knots. We're trying to educate the venues and as to what they are and what they do, so that if someone does turn up with that this kind of kit, then they're quite amenable to supporting them in using it, and make sure they get a good seat and get the best out of it. I'm certainly going to try and do some stuff with the local press around here, and also with the clubs themselves, to get articles into the football programs, for example, at Forest and County and stuff like that, and the cricket, just so that people are aware of what they could see around them. But be prepared for challenges, I suppose, in terms of that. Okay. Finally, a slide on access to work. I think it's worth noting this. If you are of working age and in employment, then Access to Work should fund this kit for you. I got my headset through Access to Work because I need it for my day job. So, you know, it's certainly worth asking the question. As I say, I'm living proof that it's out there, and it's you know, a decent ask. Obviously, your employer may be expected to contribute towards it if you've been there a long time, or if they're a big employer. But if you're new in post and you're relatively small as an organization, then Access to Work will probably fund 100% of it, as they did for me. So that's just something to bear in mind. Okay. There's a range of suppliers out there, and I've listed these as I have throughout this presentation. I've listed things in alphabetical order, not in order of preference or anything like that. There's Pamtrad, who are also known as Seeing Solutions. Most people still seem to know them as Pamtrad. They sell some of this stuff. Sight and Sound and Vision Aid are three of the biggies, really. And don't forget that you'll get VAT exemption if you are buying these, because, you know, you just need to say you're registered visually impaired or blind, and you should get the VAT exemption on that, which is, you know, quite a big saving, I suppose. And then if you're interested in more information, the RNIB page has lots of good information about the wearables. So you go onto RNIB and you just type in wearable, it should come up. There's a link here. If anybody wants a slice, there's a link direct through to the RNIB site, possibly to the wearables page. I think I did. There's loads on YouTube. Obviously, the suppliers have their own channels quite often, and the manufacturers, so you can see them there. There's also lots of blind video bloggers out there, like our brilliant friend and inspiration, Sam Seavey, over at the Blind Spot in America, and Blind Life, sorry, and that's amazing. So Sam tests quite a bit this kit out and gives you kind of a warts and all view on those. So check out stuff online. I'll put the link through to the Blind Life blog, because that's video blog, so that's really, really good. Yeah, the suppliers themselves, they're happy to help. A lot of them will bring all the different kit along, so you can make sure you try different ones. I've tried 2 or 3 of the headsets, and they're all okay. And then one of them just was like, wow, that's so much better than the others. For me personally, that's my own endorsement rather than professional endorsement. And it was just because it had a wider field of view, and it was a bit more clear for me and my particular eye condition. But I've had colleagues in the past, I had a guy I used to work with who used Oxite, absolutely swore by it. He's an orchestral player. He can read music through his Oxite glasses, I think. I tried them on, couldn't get to grips with them at all. But I've got Stargarts, he's got RP. So, you know, a huge difference in terms of eye condition and what we can and can't see. So you might find that one suits you better than another because of your eye condition. And then obviously, you know, don't forget your local friendly sight loss charities, because we tend to know a little bit about these things, and we can support you in terms of making decisions. We've got a little bit of time left. I don't know if it's of use, so I'm prepared to kind of either ditch this bit or go through it. I've kind of broken the 3 different devices down. I've chosen a specific device for each category. So I've got 1 headset, 1 camera, and 1 set of smart glasses. And I've gone into a bit more information about what they can do. We may have covered it already whilst I've been talking, but if you're interested, I can do that. Or if you want to have time for questions instead, I'll leave it there and I'll open it back up to Tim. So prepared to just take kind of go with the flow on this one. What do you think?
Yes, it's Key here.
Okay.
Hi, Key.
I've got a question about Orcam.
Yeah.
How do you use Orcam if you're totally blind, got no vision at all, and you've got something in front of you? How do you find the focus point?
So that's a really good question, and that's kind of the hand-eye coordination that I've talked about. I think it's definitely doable. I'm not totally blind, so forgive me for kind of trying to say it's possible when I don't fully appreciate that. It's hard because you just need to learn kind of distances.
Yeah, it's got a lot to do with practice.
Yeah.
You switch the Orcam off and point it at a page or something, and it says it can't read it, or there are something below that can't be found, and you just have to. It's got a lot to do with practice.
Yeah. So it's a case of moving it further away or lifting it up a little bit higher, isn't it? And things like that. Yeah. I've done similar things like with some of the apps out there, like Seeing AI and Sullivan Plus. And they're a bit different because I tell people to maybe even put their phone flat on the document and slowly lift it up, you know, sort of vertical. And you can do that with the phone and tablet based apps that do the similar kind of thing. But for the hands-free stuff like Orcam, it is a very different way of working. It is feasible. It is doable. It's tricky.
practice. And Matt, can I just ask a question? Does it kind of, do you pick up a line, or would it scan the whole document and then read the whole document from top to bottom, or is it just literally, do you have to move your head with the, Orcam on and then, you know, looking down to read every line?
Yeah, good question. The answer is, with the headsets and the smart glasses, they will read what they see. So the thing to bear in mind there is, if you just kind of, for me, I say take picture, because mine does verbal commands as well. So I can either press a button on the side of the headset, or I can say take picture. When I say take picture, you hear the camera shutter noise, and whatever's in front of me, it will look at that, and if it sees any text at all, it will read it out to me. Okay. So a couple of examples of that is, if I read something on my screen at work, it will read everything on my screen, but it also might pick up on text that's in the background on a poster on the wall behind me. And it might be partial text. So it sometimes reads parts of words. And that takes a little bit of getting used to as well. With the Orcam devices, you can actually specify now. You can say read headlines, read paragraph, I think, and stuff like that. So you've got a bit more control. So what you can do is you can potentially get the whole document in one go, and then you can still navigate through that a little bit. But bear in mind again that if I've done this in the past, taken a photograph of a football report in the newspaper, and it's read it to me, but it's also read the names of sponsors on the shirts. Okay, so so it's because it's a computer, it's not able to differentiate and skip over that, so sometimes it will give you a lot more information than you need, but they're getting better. Like I say, that the voice commands on Orcam now, this idea of saying read amounts or read dates or read headlines, is quite an advancement, right, I think.
And
in terms of that.
One more question, if I may, please, just really quickly thinking about my clients, let's say who have ready meals or something that needs to just go into the of a microwave, and then can you just maybe say look for instructions, or look for the word instruction and read that part, or would it read out the whole
It'd read out the whole
label,
thing.
It'd
read out the whole thing. Yeah. And I think that with all this, regardless of whether it's body worn or whether it's handheld, it's how we learn to kind of to use it and find the text we want. A great example of that is going back to the mobile phone use of this kind of stuff. Like I use CNAI every day of my life, and I know that when I flip a pizza box over, for example, if I just hold it over the whole thing, I'm going to get every single ingredient, as well as the cooking instructions, as well as where it was made and all that kind of stuff, and possibly the brand and all that. So it's a case of, I suppose, learning conventions in terms of cooking instructions tend to be, in a box on the right hand side or whatever it might be, and dealing with it that way.
Yeah, of course.
So they do take a bit of getting used to sometimes, but I still think they're very enabling things.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So any other questions?
On the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I just ask one, Pierre? Just a quick one. I mean, in terms of, I kind of know Orcam, but I can't see at all. And obviously the prices, I know the prices, and I tend to use the phones and the cheaper stuff at the moment. But what kind of interests me in, like, you mentioned about the sort of, sporting venues and things like that. I think for me it would be great if they had, like, some of these things available more if I went to a museum or I went to a thing. So it was kind of like they mixed that technology with a sort of virtual tour. So I could sort of, I know you're not meant to use it for navigation, but within a confined and controlled setting, I might be able to sort of use, and it's a similar kind of thing. Either you go to a thing and rent them when you go to, or they give you as part of the ticket when you go to a museum or something, or having these things available more on a sort of rental basis when you're doing something specifically where you need it for a week or a thing, like, I don't know if that is possible, because they're quite delicate,
Yeah, I mean that's certainly something that we're exploring at my site. That's the kind of the way we want it to be initially, that we can fundraise for a couple of headsets that will become just part of our tech library. We're very proactive in terms of try before you buy. So I wouldn't have an issue with that personally. At my site, there might be a kind of a need to fill a disclaimer form in, or provide credit card details in the event that you don't come back with it, or it comes back in pieces. But I think everybody will deal with that individually as an organisation. But yeah, I mean the kind of museum idea is absolutely brilliant. I think that at times we've got to bear in mind the limitation of artificial intelligence at the moment. That if I was to go to a museum and sort of tap on the side of my glasses or whatever, or put my headset on. It might, if I was totally blind, it might say image may contain sculpture, and that might be all you get out of it at the moment. I don't think you're going to get a lot of detail from the artificial intelligence software at the moment.
But in terms of they can't at the moment, nobody's sort of combined a bit of that with somebody walking you along and describing things to you in terms of recorded. That would be for me like cool, because like I can get around and then I'd have a bit of like real info, read by somebody.
Absolutely, and I know that the Sight Plus headset, which is the one made by Give Vision, they're backed by, or they were originally backed by Roman Abramovich. So I know that they actually had a headset at the Tretyakov Gallery in Moscow that you could get on the way in, which was amazingly proactive from them in particular. So, I know that kind of thing is starting to be introduced. I also, years ago now, saw a project where they were trying to get haptic feedback to museums. So they had this device that you put your hands in and you held these two kind of joysticks. And then you could work your way around the edge of the virtual object. So let's say they had a Ming vase that was, thousands and thousands of years old, and we wouldn't be allowed anywhere near it in terms of touching it and breaking it. They had this kind of device that you put your hands in that they were piloting, and by moving the joysticks, you would feel the edge of that vase, a virtual version of that vase, by the resistance you got from the joysticks. So you could start to feel the shape of the vase and the textures and things like that. So that was going back, I don't know, maybe 10 years now. So I don't know if those things have ever come to fruition. I've certainly not heard of them, but I know that there's a lot of research into that kind of haptic feedback as well, to enhance the experience, as well as audio description and augmented vision as well.
That's great. Thanks so much.
Hello.
Hi.
I've got probably the same sort of loss of sight as you have, although I've got macular degeneration.
Yeah, me too.
I've just got a little tiny weeny bit in the periphery. And so, but I'm very old and I'm no good at technology. And I did try the pen, and I couldn't get things in the right place because I couldn't see the laser beam, and I probably didn't stick at it long enough. So what I'm thinking about, listening to you talk about the glasses, but not with the Orcam on, because the camera on, I'd have the same problem, wouldn't I?
Yes, potentially. I mean, the glasses worn camera is an interesting one, because I think if you've got macular degeneration like you and I,
yes,
we've actually grown up with the natural conventions of reading. So we kind of, I'm talking for you here now, correct if I'm wrong, but for me, I can still pick up a book and I can hold it at that kind of natural distance from my eyes, even though it doesn't help me at all. I can hold a book as I used to as a teenager in my early 20s when I could read. So if you do that with Orcam, it should find it, because you're in a natural position and your eyes are looking at the book, and even if they can't see any text on it. So you might find that helps. The headset might be another option, just in terms of not having to point a laser again. The difficulty with the handheld stuff is that you're changing from using that natural process of looking at something, for those of us who either still have some sight or had better sight in years gone by. There's a natural way. I mean, I still look at people when I'm talking to them, even though their head disappears. Yeah. So in the same way that I could still hold a leaflet in my hands, and it would probably be at that right reading distance that you kind of taught.
Yes.
And then a headset or a glasses worn camera might help. But the handheld ones, a whole additional level in my mind, in terms of hand-eye coordination, that makes it difficult for the reasons that you stated.
Yes. So I've sort of rejected the idea of the glasses with the camera on, because I've still got to focus on something in the right place, haven't I? I was thinking more about the glasses that you tap.
Yeah.
Are they hard? Are they very technological?
No, not to use. And as I said in my presentation, they now have the voice control as well. So if the taps and swipes are difficult, either you can't remember whether to swipe or tap and which way to move your finger, or whether you don't have good hand control, then now, obviously you have very clear speech, so your speech would do that. And you could say, just read text, or it's hey Orcam, read text, or hey Orcam, whatever it might be, and it'll do that bit for you. So you might find the voice control things easier. Again, I think for me, it's a case of just trying before you buy. Never feel pressured by a salesperson. You've got every right to say it's not right for me, I want to think about it. But a lot of them will come out, no pressure, and let you try it, because it's a lot of money to spend. It really is a lot of money to spend.
Yeah, it is. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I was going to say, sorry, one more thing. The other option in terms of reading, don't forget the basic devices that we've not covered today, that, again, your sight loss charities will be absolutely able to advise on. And that's the kind of the reading machines that just sit on your table, and you pop a document under it, and you've got maybe 2 buttons on the whole device. You press a button and it scans it and reads it back to you. If that's the kind of reading you want, functional reading of your post and things like that, those document readers that are obviously much cheaper and very easy to use are definitely worth considering. And certainly from us at my site, Knots, we've got a couple in the office that we can demonstrate to people, and I'm sure that all my colleagues around the country have got similar things.
So how can I get to my site?
Whereabouts are you based, sorry?
No, she's mine. She's Essex.
Yeah,
Janet
so
is,
I'm guessing
Matt
you have
is in
something down there,
Nottingham, Janet.
Pardon?
Matt is in Nottingham, so you can come into the office, but I was under the understanding that you don't have enough space on your table to put anything
I
on
couldn't
it. So
I can't have anything big on my table.
Yeah,
I'm in a very
exactly.
small flat with half a table. Yes, if you're talking about the readers.
yes, we are.
Big,
Yeah.
No, yes, I can't.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's not an option, but sadly we have explored that already, obviously.
What I would say is, do you have a smartphone?
No.
No. One option could be to invest in a smartphone, and it could be something simple like Synaptic, or it could be Android or Apple. The choice is yours.
No.
And a simple phone stand to pop it in, and you pop the document underneath that and use an app. That's another option as well. You can do that with the voice control as well now. So that's probably conversation separately to this. But
yeah, of course.
It is possible with a very small amount of space.
Okay.
All
Right. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Matt. That was most interesting. And I
Yes.
have been through on a couple of things, but how you explained it actually made sense to me as well, which is
good.
the first. So thank you. Come again soon, yeah?
Definitely.
Very comprehensive.
I was just wondering,
Yeah.
Matt, has the device that you've got, has it done what you hoped it would do? And
Good question.
what are the weaknesses? What are the bits where you thought, actually, I hoped it would do this, but it's not doing this for me?
Okay. So I have a Mercury Viewpoint, which is I think the second cheapest of the headsets I've found. So as I say, mine came from Access to Work, but if you were to buy it, it's 2,250 from one supplier, which is quite cheap compared to others. The things that I think were amazing, Anthony, include the field of vision. So with one of the headsets, the smart glasses I've been researching this last couple of weeks for this presentation, that had a 52-degree field of view, whereas mine's got, I think it's 95 or 96 degree field of view. So it's got a massive field of view. And as someone with central vision loss, that was just above and beyond. It was great. It was really, really good. I think other features that I really enjoyed were the clarity on this particular model compared to others. But again, that could be down to my own particular eyesight compared to other models for other people with different conditions. What would I like it? I like the OCR feature, so I can just say take picture, and if there's text there, it'll read it aloud to me. I like the voice control side of it, so I can be totally hands-free with my head under my desk, trying to find out where to plug my thing back in, and then I can say make it bigger and make smaller and that kind of thing. The edge mode, I think, is something that I'm warming to. At first, it's a bit of a novelty because it makes everything look like a pencil sketch, but actually the detail you get from that is quite incredible. I wish it was smaller. I've got tech envy. I get tech envy quite a bit. And doing this research, I was looking at the New Eyes Pro 3. And I think it was something crazy like £6,500, which is money that I will never have. Even if my children are on eBay at the moment, so anyone wants to bid on them, feel free. But I would love something like that. But £6,500 is never money that I'm personally going to find. I wish my headset was smaller and a bit more like the smart glasses. And I now love the idea of it streaming direct onto the lenses in front. I'd love to try that. Again, £6,500, it's a pipe dream at the moment. But I think that kind of thing is something, Anthony, that I would really like to see more of the connectivity between them, where you can connect it to other tech. So rather than me using my headset to just augment my vision, and I'm still moving my head around, and it blurs a little bit, you know, and you get the motion sickness a little bit if you're magnified greatly. The fact that if it was on the lenses in front of my eyes, if I move my head, it moves with me, so you don't get that motion sickness. That's something that I really, really like, a feature that I wish I had. And you get a bit sweaty if you're wearing them for a long time. So I think I've never watched a film through it all the way through. I think if I did for 2.5 hours, say, it might be a little bit, you know, a bit not heavy, but you have to get yourself in a good position for it to work. So I know people who've got them who use them greatly and enjoy things like playing cards with them. And like I say, that idea of being back in a social circle and doing something connected to other people, and cards is a great example. I was trying to play cards with an Orcam on a while back, and it kept reading out all my cards. So you know, you can't do that with a Trivial Pursuit. You turn the card out as well to read the answer, and it reads the answer out to the person who's asking the question. Are you asking the question to? So there's things like that it's not quite infallible, but you know, if there is a way of doing that, then yeah, I'd like to see them slim down a bit, I think. But I suppose it's still relatively new technology, this, in terms of how many of us are actually using them. And I'd just love to see them out and about. When I go to the football, I really want people to say, oh, there's that bloke with that headset that helps him see, rather than everyone staring at me, or some, you know, 4,000 away fans chanting at you, asking what you've got stuck on your head. But, you know, which I'm sure will happen. But, you know, I think the public perception is not there yet. But I think the potential public uses for it in terms of arts and culture and that kind of stuff and sporting events is absolutely massive.
I think that's the thing, is that is getting the public to recognise that it is a seeing aid. It's not, because there was quite a backlash against Google Glass and things like Snapchat glasses, because obviously people felt they were being videoed and uploaded to social media. So there's got to be that sort of reassurance of actually, no, that's not what I'm doing. I'm actually using this so I can actually read the menu or see the screen, or, you know.
Absolutely. Like and I think that's the big thing. I think I've been challenged once with Orcam on in the shopping centre, someone saying, what are you doing videoing me? And I just had to explain what it was, and they kind of shrugged the shoulders and walked away. But, you know, there is that. I mean, I almost think that when you buy these things, you should get some kind of certification from the suppliers and manufacturers that states what it is and what you're doing with it, and why you have it. I don't know if that exists at the moment. I don't think it does. But, you know, it's a valid point. You know, you can't get on the bus and take a photo of somebody sat next to you on the bus. It's invasion of personal privacy and all that. So I totally understand the fact that when you're sat there with a camera on your head, people might have that viewpoint. But yeah, that's something to deal with publicly. And I think that, you know, as sight loss charities, we can probably do our bit by getting into public and getting them into the media and explaining what they are and what they do. But it is new tech, and there'll always be people who challenge it.
Okay.
Can I just ask one more question about health and safety? Just a quick one. I mean, from what I knew, you were saying about the headsets, they're like the screen sort of in front of your eyes, or the thing is not that far. Did I get that right? So, I mean, when they made these things, did they have to go through? Because I'm of the generation that grew up with my mum always saying, "Don't sit too close to the TV." And, you know, like because it messes up, you know. So they before they release that, you know, do they have to go through, like, you know, tests with medical, you know, departments and health and safety to make sure that long-term use of that thing won't make your eye condition worse, or not necessarily that eye condition, but, you know, maybe make you short-sighted or long-sighted, or, you know.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point. I know that generally, I mean, I've had similar parents as well. So, you know, my parents always told me not to sit too close to the TV and to make sure I chewed my banana well before I went to bed, else I'd have bad dreams and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm very much from that same generation. The general feedback is that sitting close to the TV does not affect your eyes at all, and if it helps you do something otherwise you can't do, then that's fine. Some of these devices are classed as medical devices. I don't know if they all have that certification or not, but certainly a lot of the ones in the States that you look at, so maybe things like Envision and New Eyes Pro, one of their publicity videos definitely has something on there that states this is a class 1 medical device. So, they've obviously gone through that ratification, but I don't know if they all have done that or not. So some are classed as medical devices, some possibly aren't. I think it's quite expensive to have your thing classed as a medical device. But my understanding is that it doesn't affect your eyes. And on a personal level, the way I look at it is my eyes aren't actually that much use anyway. So sticking something in front of my eyes for a couple of hours could only benefit me rather than actually detract further.
That's good.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. We're coming up to nearly 11:15, by the way. So I think we better probably call an end to this because Matt's been quite busy the last hour and a bit. Matt was excellent, really comprehensive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Live Well and Future Vision. We hope you enjoyed this presentation. The Live Well events take place on the second Thursday of each month at 10 AM. Future Vision sessions take place on the fourth Thursday of each month at 10 AM and are technology events aimed at people living with sight loss. To attend the next session or to suggest future topics, please contact your local sight society who will be able to provide you with the Zoom link.